So, Senator Dallaire, can you tell me where does the responsibility to protect stand status-wise here at the 10-year anniversary of the doctrine's adoption?
It's been tested, and that, thank God, has moved it out of a certain stagnation and sort of theoretical debate in the political spheres, both inside the UN and in a number of national capitals. So the Libyan test and a few others that we see in Kenya and so on have tested it, and we've responded more or less. When we hear people worried about how it's been maybe overextended with the Libya case and the way the mandate was written, it's an indication to me that we still haven't gone to the length that we can to maximize the full potential of R2P, which is not only the political and all the pre-use of force phases, which can and must continue to be more matured and rendered more sophisticated, but it's in the in the extremist, in the use of force, that people are still fiddling and having cold feet. And in the end, in Rwanda, I needed reinforcements in those first days that might have prevented the slaughter, and that cold feet is still out there. And the case of Libya, when some are saying, buyer's remorse, we went beyond the mandate of the regime change and so on. I say, no, you didn't go as far as you could have. As an example, to me, when Gaddafi said, I'm going to crush these cockroaches and destroy these rats, those were exactly the words that brought about the Rwandan genocide, and that meant boots on the ground, not planes in the air. That would have possibly prevented the moderates from getting engaged and having been bled unnecessarily, I think, and amongst themselves created enormous frictions, brought in massive amounts of weapons that are now overflowing into Algeria. We could have deployed forces and said to Gaddafi, you've got an option, take us on. And as we're doing that, let the moderates, in a more serene atmosphere, try to build what was going to happen and offer maybe Gaddafi another option than him being simply destroyed. We didn't do that, and so we fiddled on the margins, and so we're still ready to see people bleed extensively, even though R2P is there sort of in support. Well, it shouldn't be in support, it should be indirect operations.
Do you think the UN moved quickly enough in the case of Libya? A lot of people were surprised at how quickly the
massive. Oh, absolutely. The UN moved at light speed compared to what we've seen in the past, certainly compared to the 90s. And there's absolutely no doubt that we moved through those phases very rapidly. Whether they were given full opportunity to be exploited at the time and matured on the ground, with a significant effort. As an example, giving Gaddafi an option through R2P than purely confrontational and maybe getting self-destroyed. I think there could have been a tighter link there in a more mature way. But they did magnificently. There's no doubt. Where I fear is people now sort of pulling back and saying, geez, did we go too far? And I would contend too far would have been, in fact, from day one, invading as an invasion force. Too far would have been making a NATO fight only. I think that the UN has got to, as part of its operationalization, find a way to have dedicated resources to it and the capability of running a mission instead of turning to NATO all the time. And that is, I think, part of that maturing exercise that's still got to be going on.
And final question, a lot of critics say, why was R2P applied in the case of Libya, but now yet not applied in the case of Syria? Is there a role for R2P to be applied in Syria?
I think, in fact, we should be. And remember, very few people use the actual term R2P during Libya. I mean, it wasn't even Obama didn't use it, although they're the most advanced in trying to apply it through their Marrow project and so on. I think that in regards to Syria, we're in the initial phases of it. That is to say, diplomatic efforts, massive new diplomatic effort should be emphasized and pursued by middle powers in particular to give some other options to that government. Economic restrictions are being implemented, and that will continue. I think that we're into these phases. It's a longer phase because the scale is still not there, nor is the clarity of that government's ultimate intention. Although it's going in a most aggressive fashion, it hasn't slaughtered. I mean, it's killed 5,000-6,000 and so on, but and it's sort of I think it's sort of hedging its bets. And in that context, it's the political side, it's the diplomatic side, it's the economic side that's got to be to the fore. And lastly, with Syria, again, the stronger the dictator is with military force and the complexity of a possible military operation, the more room that gives to the diplomatic and economic people to be pushing their yardsticks before even considering the military one.